If you have autoimmune disease and you're struggling with constipation, then you've probably tried all the things. Miralax, magnesium, fiber supplements, and nothing sticks. So it's easy to start believing that your body is broken. But it's not. Your body isn't broken, it's just asking you for a different kind of support. One that goes deeper than symptom management. Because the truth is that healing happens when we stop chasing quick fixes and we start focusing on rebuilding our foundation. In this video, I'm going to walk you through a client transformation that shows what's really possible when we do just that. If you've been struggling with chronic constipation and autoimmune symptoms, this story might feel really familiar and really hopeful. Kristina came to me with a diagnosis of ankylosing spondylitis, but what she brought up first, the thing that had been bothering her for years and years, was chronic constipation. She struggled with this symptom since childhood and was only having maybe 1 to 2 bowel movements a week. And because of this, she was constantly bloated, and she was also experiencing a lot of brain fog and headaches and fatigue and even some skin issues like acne. And as you can imagine, all of this was really taking a toll on her and on her confidence. And most of it was connected to how her body was processing waste and toxins. And even the Miralax, which she had been taking regularly, had stopped working. So we started where I start with all of my clients. We took her full health history from babyhood to present. I didn't just want to understand her symptoms, I wanted to really get her whole story. From there, I created an initial personalized wellness plan that focused on rebuilding her foundation. And this included specific vegetables and plant foods to support her liver and deliver fiber and also add antioxidants. We also added magnesium, both topical and oral, because this helps to relax muscles in the digestive tract and improve motility. And we talked about trying some castor oil packs, which can help to stimulate the lymphatic system, support the liver, and also promote bowel movements. Then I ordered a GI map stool test and some comprehensive lab work so that we could take a deeper look at what was going on inside of her body. And this is where things really started to make sense. Her GI map test showed that she had H. pylori, which is a bacteria that actually lowers stomach acid and compromises digestion. And this makes it difficult for your body to absorb nutrients properly, and it can also exacerbate constipation. She was also dealing with gut dysbiosis. And this is when there's a bacterial imbalance in your gut microbiome. And with Kristina, what had happened is that this ongoing gut dysbiosis had damaged her gut lining and led to leaky gut. And this type of inflammation is also a huge driver in autoimmune disease, and it can lead to constipation as well. Now, gut dysbiosis is really common, and I honestly see it with most of my clients. So it didn't really surprise me to see that that's what was going on with her, but it made sense, and it was just another piece of the puzzle. Another thing that we found on the GI map is that Kristina had low levels of beneficial bacteria, and this was probably because she had been on multiple rounds of antibiotics during the past year. And she also wasn't eating a diet that supported these good bacterial strains. And because she had these low levels of the good bacteria, she had developed an overgrowth of opportunistic bacteria. And this included one strain that is associated with SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And this can definitely slow down digestion and motility and cause constipation. We also had elevated levels of something called beta-glucuronidase, which is an enzyme that plays a role in our body's detoxification processes. So let me just take a moment to explain this. Your body has this amazing natural detoxification system. And when your liver processes toxins, hormones like estrogen, or even medications, it packages them up into this form that can safely leave the body, mostly through bile and stool. Now, one of the main ways that it does this is through a process called glucuronidation. And this is where substances get bound to something called glucuronic acid. You can think of it almost like wrapping toxins up in a biohazard bag so that they can be escorted out of the body. Now, here's where beta-glucuronidase comes in. This enzyme is produced by a certain bacteria in the gut. And when levels of beta-glucuronidase get too high, it kind of breaks open those biohazard bags, essentially unpacking those toxins, hormones, or medications that were already set to be eliminated. And that means that instead of being excreted in your stool, those substances get reabsorbed back into your bloodstream. And this creates a kind of toxic recycling system inside of your body. And interestingly, high beta-glucuronidase activity is often linked to estrogen dominance because estrogen keeps getting recirculated throughout the body. Also, when we have high beta-glucuronidase, it can mean that we have sluggish detoxification pathways since your liver keeps having to deal with the same compounds over and over. Skin issues, brain fog, fatigue, and autoimmune flares are also related to this because your body is holding on to things that it was trying to get rid of. So, to put it bluntly, this is why we need to poop every day. So, when we see elevated beta glucuronidase on a GI map test, it's a big red flag that your gut bacteria are interfering with your body's ability to detoxify properly. And in Kristina's case, this was likely a key contributor to a lot of her symptoms. So her test results were telling us loud and clear that her liver and her gut both needed support to get her detox pathways functioning properly, and the elevated beta glucuronidase was just one piece of that puzzle. And so all of those things that we just went over, that was all just from the GI map test. When I reviewed her blood work, it gave us even more insight into what was going on behind the scenes. And when we put all of the data side by side, it really painted a full body picture of what was going on. Her fasting glucose and hemoglobin A1C showed us that her blood sugar wasn't stable, which impacts not only energy, but also gut function and immune regulation. Her white blood cell count, differential markers, and C-reactive protein levels gave us a glimpse into her immune system activity, which was in overdrive, likely because of the gut inflammation that we saw on the GI map test. And these can also sometimes be elevated due to the autoimmune disease itself. Her serum protein, chloride, and blood urea nitrogen levels told us that her stomach acid production was likely low, which totally made sense given the H. pylori overgrowth. And like I said earlier, this impacts both digestion and how well we absorb critical nutrients. And speaking of nutrients, we also looked at her vitamin D, her B12, her magnesium, and an iron panel. And I wasn't really surprised to see that several of these were low, which we already kind of suspected after looking at her GI map results, which showed that she had reduced levels of beneficial bacteria. Finally, we noticed that several of her liver enzymes, her ALT, her AST, and her GGT, were elevated, which reinforced what we were already seeing from the beta glucuronidase and her symptoms. Her liver was overworked and undersupported. So looking at all of these results together gave us basically a 360-degree view. They showed us that Kristina's chronic constipation wasn't just about digestion, it was a gut-liver immune issue that was affecting everything from her skin to her energy to her autoimmune symptoms. And the best part of this information was now that we could put together a roadmap and create a plan that actually addressed the root causes instead of just masking the symptoms. Kristina told me after all of this that for the first time she actually understood what was happening in her body and why nothing had worked before. So I used all of this data to update her wellness plan so it included targeted nutrients and healing foods, as well as a strategic supplementation protocol to rebalance her gut flora and support detoxification. And we also started to remove inflammatory foods like gluten and dairy and added sugar. And these are all foods that we also eliminate on the AIP protocol, which is what we ended up doing together. Now, when it came to eliminating certain foods, she was a little bit nervous. Sugar especially felt hard for her to give up. But I gave her some simple, printable meal and snack ideas to make it feel more manageable for her, even with busy work and family life. And here's what happened. Within 3 weeks of making these changes and being consistent with the dietary and lifestyle changes, and also with her supplement protocol, Kristina told me that she was having regular bowel movements for the first time in years. She was actually shocked and super happy. Her energy had improved, her brain fog had started to lift, and her autoimmune flares were starting to calm down. And I just want to underscore something really important here. Kristina didn't get these results from a quick fix. Not from a miracle pill, not from a trendy detox or 3-day cleanse that she found online. This kind of transformation doesn't come from surface level solutions. It happened because we took the time to dig deep and to uncover the why behind her symptoms and to understand what her body had been trying to communicate all along. And once we had that clarity, we gave her the targeted support that she truly needed. And she just didn't sit back and hope things would change. She showed up for herself, she made the changes, and she committed to the process. And that's what made all the difference. Now, I want to show you exactly how we approached her healing process so that you can start thinking about what steps might help you find the same kind of relief. This is a system that I guide all of my clients through, and I call it the C.A.L.M framework for constipation relief. So whether you're dealing with constipation, bloating, or other gut symptoms, this is a great foundation to build from. So let me break it down for you. The first step is to clear the triggers. So we start by removing all of the things that are constantly irritating the gut lining and triggering the immune system. Now, with my clients, I guide them through the AIP diet, which is really the gold standard to heal the gut and calm the immune system. But if you're not ready for that yet, I totally get it. I suggest starting by removing inflammatory foods like gluten, dairy, sugar, and ultra-processed foods. But like I mentioned earlier, triggers aren't always just about food. They can also include infections and microbial imbalances, which is exactly what we uncovered on Kristina's GI map. These hidden disruptors often kind of fly under the radar, but they can quietly drive symptoms like constipation and inflammation, fatigue, and even hormonal issues. And that's why running a comprehensive test like the GI map can be really such a powerful step. It really takes the guesswork out of healing by showing you exactly what's going on inside of your gut so that you can address the root causes and not just mask the symptoms. The next step in my C.A.L.M framework is to align the nervous system, and here's what I mean by this. Your gut and your brain are deeply connected through the vagus nerve. Now, if your nervous system is stuck in fight or flight mode, your digestion begins to slow down and your detox pathways kind of get clogged. So for Kristina, I had to help her kind of downshift into a rest and digest state by using tools like breath work, vagus nerve exercises, and nervous system regulation. And this step is often overlooked, but it's crucial, especially if constipation flares up during stressful times. After this, we build the basics back in because healing isn't just about taking things out, it's about giving your body what it needs. And this includes whole food nutrition with plenty of plant fiber and nutrients, proper hydration, daily movement to stimulate digestion, and consistent high quality sleep because your gut repairs itself while you rest. These are the critical foundational habits that support your gut in the long term, not for a few weeks, but for life. And that's what we're interested in here, long-term solutions. The final piece of this framework is to map your progress. And we do this by tracking nutrition, hydration, movement, and bowel movements every day. And then we make adjustments along the way. And this is because healing is not linear, right? It's a process. And what works for someone else might not work for you. That's why I have my clients use tools like the Functional Wellness Journal, which they can access through an app on their phone to monitor their bowel movements, symptoms, energy, and food so that we can identify patterns, celebrate wins, and make smart data-informed decisions. When we mapped Kristina's progress over time, it was clear that her improvements weren't just random. They were the result of intentional changes and real healing. And this is exactly the kind of support that I teach inside my Leaky Gut Clean Start program. The Leaky Gut Clean Start is a 4-week self-paced habit stacking program that guides you step by step, helping you to reduce the inflammation, nourish your gut, and gently support your detox pathways. Each week, you're going to add 2 new powerful habits that will help you to repair your gut and support your immune system. And these are some of the basic strategies that I use with my private clients. You'll also get a 4-week gluten-free meal plan and recipe guide because gluten is one of the top triggers for leaky gut and inflammation, and it's one of the first things that I ask my clients to remove. This program is under $50. It's a very low commitment program. You can go at your own pace. And you can get started today by using the link in the description box below. It's an instant download. But getting back to Kristina's story, her healing didn't happen overnight, but it did happen. Not because of a miracle product, but because she finally understood what her body was trying to say. And she listened, she got support, and she took steady, aligned steps forward. So if you're dealing with chronic constipation, autoimmune symptoms, and just feeling like nothing is working for you, know this, your body isn't broken. It's speaking to you. And with the right tools, with the right approach, healing is possible. I've seen it again and again, and I really hope that Kristina's story helped to remind you that progress is possible, even after years of struggle. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today, and in the next video, we're going to talk about the hidden costs of ignoring chronic constipation. I'll see you in the next one.